Hey there, welcome to Synth Seeker. My name's Luke. Today is, production log number 5. So we're back working on the song we was working on months ago called Starting From Nothing. Today what I wanted to talk about was, believe it or not, a little music theory, or my lack of knowledge around music theory and how I cope and what I do to try and understand the music as I'm writing it. And the idea is I'm going to show you how I do some analysis, how I sort of take apart what I've made, because I don't really spend a lot of time thinking about theory as I'm writing music. I tend to pick a key, pick a root note and a mode. I should say key. Pick a mode, and then I work within that. And then sometimes as I'm building my parts, because I work in layers, what'll happen is I'll break a rule or something like that, and that's fine. As long as it sounds good, I'm happy with it. But there'll come a time in the production, and we've reached that time for this piece, where I have to sort of take a step back and sort of try and understand what I've built here, because I build these bass lines, I build these little chord progressions, I build these little lead lines, and I sort of piece them together in a very not music theory educated sort of way. I put them together in such that I like what I hear, and then I build the song from that. But what I tend to do is I've reached this point where I take a step back, I sort of make a dumbed down version of the same song. I'll show you what I'm talking about here, and I sort of think about it as I'm going. Now, what's going to come out of this episode actually is a technique for you to sort of summarize your creation so that you can listen to it and think about it in a theory sort of way. And then it's really going to create a bunch of questions because I don't have the answers. And so I'm just going to ask the questions sort of out loud, metaphysically on the YouTubes. And I'm assuming that some people may answer them and some people may not. But what will happen is the future viewers of this video and future me will be able to come to it, watch the video, say, oh, I see what you're doing. I understand what you're trying to do. I understand the questions you're asking, and then look at the comments and maybe there'll be some useful answers. And if that doesn't happen, maybe I'll do a follow-up video if we come up with, solutions. It's not really solutions because this isn't a problem. This is just a way of continuing to move forward. And that's why this is a production log. It's just the record of me making this song. Okay, so where are we at? I've turned off a bunch of instruments, so all we're listening to right now is the Sub 37 and this Rickenbacker bass. Okay, and I've separated out basically 3 patterns, 3 scenes that I want to work on today. And so what we've got here is, let me just play these for you. It's this is this prog rock piece that I've been working on. We've got this little bit. And then we've also got this bit. And this. This is the final sort of. Okay, so we may only look at the first 2 of these, but so these are segments, these are patterns in the song, scenes that I'm working on, and I like the sound of it. And if you watch an older production log, the previous ones, there's actually a lot more going on. There's other instruments that are playing, but these are sort of the core pitches that are being used across this piece, because I tend to do a lot of layers, so I've got duplication going on. So really, it's just this stuff. This is the subsequent stuff, this, and this. All right. And then this bass line here. It's a little busy, but that's okay. That one, and this one. All right. Well, maybe we'll just focus on the first 2. All right. So the first thing I do when I want to sort of do analysis, I'm going to say, okay, let's go revisit what the hell I made and what does it mean? Okay, because I know the root note I'm in is E, right? And I know I'm in a Dorian mode. So the scale I'm working with is this. Okay, actually, let's do this. So one of the things I do is I add another instrument. I add just a plain piano, okay? No effects, nothing, just a piano, okay? Because that just lets me hear focus on the pitches and not worry about the effects and the timbres that I'm working with. So stick another instrument, maybe just sine waves or a plain saw or an electric piano or something like that, or guitar, whatever. But I just choose piano. And so we're working with the root of E, okay, and we're in this Dorian mode. Right, so it's all white keys except for F sharp and C sharp. Okay, that's the mode we're in. Now, what I've done is I made a copy of all the subsequent MIDI, and I made a copy of the Rickenbacker MIDI, and I duped them over here. Okay, so these are just the copies of those. And I took the instruments, I turned the instruments off. So this is just MIDI, okay? Now, what I'm going to do is I want, because I tend to work with small intervals, right? So like if we look at the subsequent stuff, this is a monophonic line. So now we can see our colors more. So my subsequent line, this is a monophonic line. The bass line's a monophonic line, okay? But they're playing different notes from time to time. Sometimes they're in unison, but generally they play two notes. They form these intervals because that's how I work. The bass line will be playing something, and the synth will be playing something else on top of it. Sometimes we've got chords, and not big, thick chords necessarily. I work with intervals as I'm building things up. And the whole point of this exercise is I do want to make these richer chords. I want to make triads and, potentially sevenths. And so, as you can tell, it's unscripted today. And I want to sort of merge these two MIDI clips. I want to take these notes, and I want to take these notes, and I want to combine them down. So what I do is I just route these things to a third track, this plain piano track that I've made. And I record them. I just play these two clips, and it gets recorded into this clip. So what I have here is on the piano channel, right? This is MIDI. That is the summation of this one and this one, right? So those together give me this. So I can actually look at these intervals and sort of understand, okay, what are the chords that I'm implying here? I can look at the next one and say, okay, so I've got these three notes playing at any given time. So this is going to form some kind of chord that I can think about and we go, right? So I just duplicated these clips over to a track with no instrument. I route that MIDI down into a third track that's just got piano on it. And then I just listen to these. So here's that first clip, simplified. All right, so that's what I do. I take the MIDI, combine it down into a single thing, put it on a plain instrument like a piano so that I can kind of take it apart. So what are these notes? So we go look at them. So what do we have here? Here's my E. So if we zoom in on this, we're playing this melody that goes. Right? That's the first four measures there. That's this stuff. And then the bass part's doing this. All right. And so simplifying it down, what's happening is we're playing this E, and the first note is F sharp. All right, if we bring this E, this bass E up an octave, we're actually playing this interval, right? So we're playing the first and the second. And then after that, this stays the same, and we go. So because the melodies, right? So let's talk about dissonance and consonance, right? So this is kind of dissonant. If you go watch the video on There Are No Wrong Notes, right? This is the interval of a second. And, you know, that's pretty dissonant. And then it goes to a third, right? That's a minor third. So this is going to resolve. It resolves from the second, right? This is dissonant. This is less dissonant. Still a little bit, but, you know. So we're adding tension with this note. My melody is going tension, a little less tension, and that's a unison. So that's as consonant as it gets. Octave. Dissonant, less dissonant, octave. So stress, stress, release. And then that's measures 3 and 4, right? So we're saying, what is that? That's D. So octave, so that's all consonants, no stress there. And that's a fifth. Some people say that's actually more consonant than an octave. That's a power chord. 2. That's also a fifth. That's E and B, right? So we've got this little bit of stress here. Second, minor third, octave, then octave, fifth, fifth. And this takes us back to our root. All right. So that's the first two measures there. So our sort of our musical sort of interval, our system is. Now the bass line is actually not just playing this E, it's doing this little dance between. And then when it goes down, it does the same thing with C sharp. Right? E with this little D, little, I don't know, grace note, I'm not sure what that would be called. And then when we go down to D, we hit the C sharp. Well, if we look at the chords we're doing, if we were to play a triad here, if we're saying we're playing the first sort of chord for the mode we're in, right? And then we go down. So you could say that this chord progression is kind of doing this. Which I know that sounds supremely boring or just stupid, but you have to remember this is like oversimplifying it, right? So you could think of it that way, but because the melody's playing this F sharp, it's sort of going. And the bass line's playing this D, so it's actually going like. So you could think like we're dancing between this sort of maybe a D. And then you could also think that if this is this E, like again, I'm not a music theorist, right? So I'm just expressing observations that I'm making. So if we're playing this D, this E minor here, the seventh is a D, right? So we could be doing this sort of thing. This is like represented by the bass. I don't know. So these are questions, right? So what does this mean? I'm not sure, but I've got this melody that's doing this tension, a little less tension, release, no tension, no tension, no tension, right? But it's moving from what is, we're on the first of the scale, that is the mode, to the seventh. And the seventh wants us to go back to the root. Right, so we're here and we're riffing on that. And we go to the seventh, which is like adds tension and then wants us to go back. And that's what we do. So I don't know. What does this mean? You tell me. I might be overthinking it. And then if we keep going, it repeats, and then we've got this little run. Which is, so we're doing the, and then when we go to D in the bass, we do this little riff. Well, what are these notes? If you play that as a chord, that doesn't sound bad. It sounds kind of jazzy. And then, yeah. So this B melody, the melody line goes A, B, E when we're on D in the bass, which is a fifth, sixth, and then it resolves to the root, to be honest. So what does that mean? I don't know, but this helps me understand where I'm going with this. Like, I understand why this sounded good when I was playing this melody. It's adding this tension and then resolving it, and then going to D adds tension and then resolves it as we go back to E. Right? So. This is going to be a really short video because I can't do a deep analysis of this. I just don't have the theory. But maybe you do. Explain to me, why is this working for me? I'm not sure. Let's look at the second pattern. All right. So what does it sound like in context? E, F sharp, G, there's dissonance there. A, E, F sharp, G, A, D, D, F sharp, or A, B, D, F sharp. All right. So what are the intervals between bass and melody? We're going E and E. So what do we have in there? This interval is happening there. Traditionally, I would say that's a wrong note. I know there are no wrong notes. But, so there's a lot of tension there. There's also, right? That's there too, a second. There's a question for the YouTubes, all right? Why does that work? Is it because it's in passing? I don't know. Right? So there's an example, where, if we want everything to be pleasant sounding, generally, we avoid, what is that? A minor second? Diminished second? I don't know. It's it's just two notes, a half step apart, F sharp and G. But it works. If I could play it right. It works. I don't know why. Is it because normally it's an octave apart? The interval is spread out more. So, because like if we do, right, there's that F sharp G. But if we move that up, right, is that a leading tone is what that is? It wants us to go to E or G. Is that something similar here? there's the puzzle for today. So this is a super short production log for Sunday. Working on this piece, and I gave you a little technique for here's something I do where I dumb down the MIDI, I merge it all down into a single thing. I listen to it as a piano sort of instrument just playing, and I start taking it apart and trying to understand why does this work? You know, what am I doing here? And I start looking for pieces that I can pull out, like motifs, right? Little pieces of melody that I can say, okay, I'm going to take that, I'm going to repeat that again in this other section because it ties it all together. Right, that melody, I'm going to reuse that in somewhere else in this piece. You know, as an example, that's the point of this sort of, I'm going to call it analysis, right? It's not music theory analysis because I just don't know enough theory, but I'm taking this apart, trying to understand. Deconstruction maybe is a better word, but, you know, give me your thoughts and comments. Do you do something like this? Am I missing something? Am I close to some discovery? You're like, oh, you're so close. You just need to make this mental connection. Let me know. Because, you know, I love doing this. I'm going to always make music. And I can make music without doing this sort of thought gymnastics around the theory of the notes that I've put together. But I do want to understand more, and maybe you do too. So let's have a discussion. Anyway, so it's these two bits. I will play them as we go out. And thanks for your time. As always, you have been watching Synth Seeker. Have a great week.